It is 6 p.m. You haven't been anywhere today. You didn't hit the gym. You didn't lift anything heavier than a laptop. You have, more or less, sat in a single chair for 9 hours. And yet, you feel like you ran a marathon. Your eyes burn. Your shoulders are made of concrete. Your thoughts are moving through molasses. Someone asks you a simple question. What do you want for dinner? And you almost start crying. And in the back of your head, that mean little voice goes, you literally did nothing today. Why are you this tired? Okay, 2 things you need to hear. Good news, nothing is wrong with you. Weird news, your brain has spent the last 9 hours building up actual toxic chemicals in the front of your skull. That's not a metaphor. French neuroscientists measured it on an MRI in 2022. Today, I'm painting why you feel destroyed after a day of doing nothing. Because, spoiler, you weren't doing nothing. You were doing the hardest thing your brain can do. Let's actually count today. You woke up, you decided whether to hit snooze. 1 decision, you picked an outfit, you picked the cereal, you picked which route to work. 3 more, you opened your inbox. 47 unread emails, you read each subject, you scanned, you prioritized. You replied to some, ignored others, archived the rest. 200 tiny decisions before 10 a.m. You joined a Zoom call. You arranged your face into the engaged expression while quietly thinking about what to make for dinner. You followed graphs you didn't understand and pretended to. Hundreds of micro-judgments. You answered a text in the group chat. You chose the right emoji. You decided whether to reply now or seem too eager. More micro-decisions. You scrolled TikTok for 15 minutes. Your brain processed 90 videos in the time most people brush their teeth. 90 small worlds, in and out. You suppressed 5 irritations. You held back 2 opinions in meetings. You smiled when you didn't feel like it. This is nothing? Here's the thing your brain doesn't know. It cannot tell the difference between you lifted weights for an hour and you made 1,500 tiny invisible decisions over 9 hours. To your brain, both are labor. You didn't do nothing. You did 1,000 invisible things. Now here's the fact, almost nobody tells you. Your brain weighs about 3 pounds. That's roughly 2% of your body weight, but it consumes about 20% of your body's total energy. Every single day. Just sit with that for a second. 2% of you, 20% of the fuel. Per pound, your brain is the single hungriest organ in your entire body. It is the most expensive thing you own. And here's the kicker. It never turns off. Not really. Even when you're asleep, it's still running. Burning glucose, sorting memories, keeping your lungs going, producing weird dreams about your high school principal for no reason whatsoever. When you're awake and actively thinking, especially when you're making decisions, focusing on hard problems or holding back what you really want to say in a meeting, the energy cost goes up, way up. A demanding day of mental work burns roughly the same calories as a long walk. The difference is, after a long walk, you can see what you did. You sweated, you moved. You earned your tiredness. After a long day of thinking, you have nothing to point to. No mileage, no bruises, no visible proof. But the bill is the same. 2% of your body, 20% of your fuel. That's not nothing. That's a glutton. Okay. So your brain is expensive to run, but that still doesn't fully explain why thinking itself makes you feel like death. In 2022, a French neuroscientist named Matthias Pesiglione at the Paris Brain Institute ran an experiment that changed how scientists understand mental fatigue. He brought 40 volunteers into the lab. He had them sit there for 6.5 hours, about the length of a real workday. Half of them did hard mental tasks, tasks that required real focus, real self-control, real thinking. The other half did easy mental tasks, same chair, same hours. Same screen, just easier. The whole time he scanned their brains with a technique called magnetic resonance spectroscopy. This is different from a regular MRI. MRS doesn't just look at brain shapes. It lets scientists actually see the chemicals moving around inside the brain. In real time. What he found stunned the field. In the volunteers who did the hard work, and only in those volunteers, a chemical called glutamate had built up in their prefrontal cortex. That's the front part of your brain, the part you use for focus, planning, and self-control, the part you use today. Now, glutamate is normally a useful neurotransmitter. Your brain needs it. But in high concentrations, in the wrong place, it becomes toxic. It starts interfering with the very brain regions that need to function. Here's what that means in plain language. When you feel exhausted after a long day of thinking, your brain is not out of fuel, the way your gas tank goes empty. Your brain is poisoning itself with its own byproducts. It's the exact same idea as your muscles. When you sprint too long, lactic acid builds up, your legs burn. Your body forces you to stop, not because it's lazy, because if it didn't stop, you'd damage yourself. Your brain does the same thing. Glutamate builds up, focus burns. Your brain forces you to stop, not because you're weak, and because if it didn't stop, it would hurt itself. Mental tiredness isn't in your head, it's in your prefrontal cortex. As a chemical, measured by a machine, your brain isn't running out of fuel, it's running out of room to put its own garbage. Okay, Now I'm going to change the way you look at work forever. Maj, you think labor means moving your muscles. You are wrong. In 1996, Gary Kasparov, the greatest chess player who ever lived, sat down to play a 6-game match against IBM's supercomputer, Deep Blue. He didn't run. He didn't jump. He didn't lift anything. He sat in a chair. He looked at a board. He thought. After the match, here's exactly what he told reporters. I'm really tired. These games took a lot of energy. Tired. From sitting in a chair. Thinking. The greatest chess mind on earth, exhausted by thinking against a machine. Because to your brain, hard thinking is running. Watch what happens to your day through this lens. Every decision you make today, that's a step. Every time you hold back from snapping at someone in a meeting, that's a deadlift. Every time you force your attention back to the spreadsheet after a notification, that's a burpee. Every time you smile when you wanted to scowl, that's a sprint. By 6 p.m., you have run miles. You just never saw the road. The treadmill was in your skull. The trail was invisible. There was no fitness watch counting your steps. No one cheered when you passed mile 20. And here's the part that hurts. If today, on top of all that, you were also processing emotion, worrying about money, scared about the future, missing someone, holding grief, then your brain wasn't just running a marathon. It was running a marathon while carrying a person on its back. You didn't sit at a desk all day. You ran a marathon. Your legs just never knew. Now here's the part that turns everything upside down. You've been treating fatigue like the enemy, like a problem to fix, like something to push through with coffee, with discipline, with willpower. It isn't. After all his research, Pacilione and his team came to a conclusion most people have never heard. Mental fatigue isn't your brain running out of battery. Mental fatigue is an emergency signal. Your brain saying, out loud, in chemistry, I need to clear the glutamate or I'm going to damage myself. Think of it like burning your hand on a hot pan. The pain isn't your enemy. The pain is your body yanking your hand back before you cook your own skin off. Mental fatigue is the same. It's your brain pulling its own hand off the stove, forcing you to stop, not because you're weak, because if it didn't stop, it would hurt itself. So every time you push through the wall and grind another 2 hours, every time you mainline coffee and tell yourself just one more thing, you are overriding a real, measurable chemical alarm from inside your own skull. You're not being tough. You're being deaf. Tiredness isn't weakness. It's your brain pulling the brake before it wrecks itself. So you don't need more coffee. You don't need another productivity app. You don't need to push harder. You need to let yourself rest. Not because you've earned it, not because you've been a good little soldier, but because biology is literally asking you to. Next time you feel destroyed after a day where you did nothing, don't ask, why am I so tired? Ask this instead. Today, how many decisions did I make? How many emotions did I manage? Daman, how many times did I pull my attention back? The honest answer is almost always thousands. That's not doing nothing. That's a full day of your brain burning fuel, building up glutamate, and quietly hauling you through life with no one to thank for it. So put the phone down. Let the dishes wait. Let dinner be cereal. You earn this rest. Not because of what you produced, because of what your brain survived. Your weird brain isn't lazy. It's a marathon runner with no one cheering for it. Painted simple. If you watch this whole video while quietly judging yourself for not being more productive, please, sit down, take a breath. Your brain is allowed to be tired. So are you. Subscribe to Painted Brain. Every week I take one weird thing your brain does and paint it simple. The stuff nobody told you. The stuff you've been carrying around with no one to explain it. The next video might give your brain a little more permission to rest. I'll see you in the next one.